to this point, we've been zooming further and further into the chart of accounts, breaking apart funds and finding departments, and then inside departments we found programs, and inside programs were orgs. And while it is true that inside of orgs we will find objects, let's first return to visit Shelley to get a handle on the full scope and role of objects in the chart of accounts. So remember Shelley, animal accountant, guitar hero, dutiful granddaughter. Recall that she created a system to organize her financial life into 3 accounts, one funded by her paycheck, one by her band's gigs, and one by checks from her loving granny. For the longest time, Shelley has been eyeing the Stomptron 4000 distortion pedal. Tone, presence, the melted faces. From which account would you expect Shelley to buy this? From her band account, right? But what if Shelley's granny had just read the book How to Bond with Your Millennial Granddaughter, and she sent Shelley a check with the following note? Dearest Shelley, your Auntie Louise told me she attended one of your band's performances last week. She said you were wonderful. Well done, my dear. Please find a check for $200 I have included. Use it to buy the most face-melting distortion pedal you can find. Then let me know when your next gig is. I want to be there to be blown away. Love, Granny. Now, based on what we know about Shelley's finances, this is clearly a granny check and should be deposited in the granny account. But Shelley's granny told her to buy something for her music career, which is normally something that she would buy out of her band account. Given that Shelley is an accountant, this is not an acceptable amount of financial ambiguity. If Shelley buys the distortion pedal out of her granny account, then in the future, she will be unable to view all of her music-related purchases in one place. She'll have to remember, oh right, I bought the Stomptron 4000 out of my granny account. So Shelley decides to search for a solution. She looks at all the things that she's bought in the last year and she groups them into categories. Restaurants, rent, groceries, clothing, musical equipment. Now most of these things come out of only one of Shelley's accounts. For example, as you would expect, she finds all of her rent payments in her paycheck account. This is also true of all of her trips to the grocery store. But when she looks at her restaurant purchases, she notices that some of them come out of her band account, which confuses her. So she looks into it further and she realizes that when she and her band would get dinner at Fantastic Mike's before shows, she seemingly used the wrong debit card. Of course, she thinks, I always buy brand new guitar strings before every show, and because I'd already used my band account debit card earlier to buy those strings, I must have mixed up my band account and my paycheck account cards when I paid for dinner. Shelley thinks for a second. This means that unbeknownst to her, her band account was supporting purchases that she had intended for her paycheck account. No wonder she never seemed to have enough money for the Stomptron 4000 herself. But happily, Granny wants to fill that gap. And to ensure that this situation won't happen again, Shelley modifies her 3-account system by adding categorical tags to each of her transactions. Restaurants, rent, musical equipment, and others. These tags will allow Shelley to look at a single transaction type horizontally across all 3 of her accounts. If she looks up her tag for restaurants, she'll see the payments that she made in her paycheck account and any other payments she mistakenly made in her other accounts. Or in the case of her musical equipment tag, it will enable her to use her granny account the way it was intended and to buy the Stomptron 4000 with her granny's check money while still being able to easily look up her total spending on musical equipment across all of her accounts. And just as we learned that Shelley's 3-account system is essentially the same thing the city does breaking out its money into funds, Shelley's categorical transaction tagging system is essentially the same thing the city does organizing its money by objects. And for more on the specifics of this, the most complex yet elegant segment of Munis, we'll see you in part 2.